Hi, my name is Christopher Malcolm, and welcome to Movable Canvas, where we talk about cinema, art, culture, and where those three things sometimes intersect. In today's episode, I'll travel far away from home to find the most universal thing in the world: family. In Ozu's 1953 masterpiece, Tokyo Story. Film-going is what one might refer to as a passive hobby. Their active hobbies, think things like playing basketball, knitting a scarf, going out dancing. These are activities that require us on some level to actively participate in their execution. Film going, on the other hand, is what I call a passive hobby. Even with novels, we have to imagine the characters in our head, but with movies, we don't really have to do anything aside from buying a ticket, sitting down, and watching a film. Once inside the theater, the entertainment is spoon-fed to us. All we have to do is suspend our disbelief and settle in to enjoy the ride. But even though it requires little conscious effort to consume a film, we still bring with us a fundamental subconscious knowledge that informs the way we receive a film's message. That unwitting participation is often as important to our enjoyment of the film as the filmmaker's execution. One example I always give is Sidney Pollack's 1973 film The Way We Were, starring Robert Redford and Barbra Streisand. I've seen that movie like 4 times now. The first time in my early 20s, I enjoyed it, but it didn't leave much of an impression. Then in my mid-30s, I watched the film again, directly in the wake of having broken up with my girlfriend at the time, and suddenly this tale of two lovers who just never could quite find a way to make it work had me sitting on the couch on a Friday night just crying my eyes out. Recently, I rewatched the film and noticed more about the political subplots and the idea of how far we go to stand up for our principles. This particular essay isn't about The Way We Were, but I use that story as an explanation of why who we are and where we are in our lives can so heavily influence how we receive a film's message, even if we are only passive participants in the process. I was writing a text for this essay over the holidays, and my parents were coming to town for a visit. My parents live on the other side of the country, so while I talk to them frequently, seeing them in the flesh is a rare opportunity. The rarity is all the more glaring because as I continue to age, so do my parents. Both of us getting older and older, and both of us aware that the number of times we're likely to get to see each other again are getting smaller and smaller by the year. I love my parents. I love spending time with them. So I'm not one of those people who wishes to see less of their parental units. But I am, of course, a busy person. I work a lot. I'm at the point in my career where the rubber meets the road, where it is no longer a dream of what could be, nor yet quite time to relax and look back at the job well done. Instead, this is the moment where I am most active, where every day matters, where I'm making my name. That takes time. My parents take time. And even though I would always choose my parents over work, that basic mathematical equation does need to take place. All of which brings us to Tokyo Story. I remember years ago, I was reading a piece by Roger Ebert about the film, and he began by saying something along the lines of, "All roads lead to Ozu." As you progress through your film education, every cinephile will make their way through the names of the great directors everyone should have on their list. You know, your Hitchcocks, Wilder, Truffaut, Kurosawa, just to name a few. They all have their own unique style which define their careers and have influenced generations to come. But eventually, you will land on the work of Yasujiro Ozu, a Japanese director who has a style unlike any other, while simultaneously seeming not to have any style at all. In a modern world where every shot is on a gimbal and many directors feel as though it's their duty to show us just how many ways they can move the camera, Ozu's approach to filmmaking can seem shocking. Instead of quick cuts and rapid camera movement, Ozu instead places the viewer in the best place to tell the story. He will let his master shots, usually locked off from a single vantage point, speak for themselves, and won't think twice about allowing a 2-shot of characters talking play out for minutes without intervention. It's not that he's too lazy to break things up, it's just that what he's after is a more humanistic approach to filmmaking. It's about the steak, not the sizzle. His compositions are beautiful in their simplicity, and the simplicity allows you to focus not on the technique of filmmaking, but on the lived experiences of the characters in the scene. In Tokyo Story, our main characters are Mr. and Mrs. Hirayama. I'm going to stick with Mr. and Mrs. because I don't trust my ability to pronounce the names correctly. The Hirayamas are an elderly couple from the countryside in post-war Japan. As the story begins, the couple is excited that they are about to embark on a trip to the big city to visit their middle-aged children. This is a Japan directly in the wake of World War II, and the shadow of the war and its effects loom very much large over the family and the film. One of their sons has gone missing during the war and is presumed dead. The other children have gone to start their own careers, each running small businesses in the city of varying levels of success. It's never completely clear just how successful any of the adults are in their chosen professions, but I get the sense that each is somewhat struggling to find their way professionally while putting on appearances to their parents. When they're in their parents' presence, all the kids say the right things about being happy to see them, but as soon as the parents are out of earshot, it becomes pretty apparent that the parents' presence is more of an inconvenience to the kids than a blessing. One by one, the kids come up with increasingly innovative ways to find out how to not quite have enough time for Mr. and Mrs. Hirayama. It's never anything so blatant as, I just don't want to see you. But work always comes up. There's never enough room for them in the undersized house. The parents always seem to want to spend time with their children when their children have other plans. Even the next generation, the Hirayama grandchildren, feel the elderly couple's presence as more of a burden than a blessing. The only child who seems to truly value the Hirayama's visit is one of their daughters. That's actually not really their daughter, not even related to the family. Noriko is the widow of the Hirayama's son who was lost at war. She is struggling to come to terms with his disappearance. Like many during the wartime, the courtship was a brief one. She hardly had enough time to even get to know her husband before he left for the war. And the further torture of not knowing for sure whether he was even killed or captured during the war has left her in a state of limbo. Throughout the film, Noriko wears the biggest and brightest smile in the film. Bahara's terrific performance affords us the knowledge that the great deal of pain is hidden just beneath the surface. She's found secretarial work at a small firm in the city. Unlike the Hariyama's natural-born children, there's no pretense that she's a big businesswoman. Instead, she's just a regular, hard-working woman who spends most of her time in the office. So she hardly has any more time to devote to her parents-in-law than the couple's actual children. But whereas the Hariyama's natural children are constantly thinking of ways to free themselves from the burden of having to see their parents, Noriko goes above and beyond to assume the responsibility that, in truthfulness, shouldn't fall onto her shoulders. She takes off time from work. She goes out of her way to make the older couple feel comfortable. She puts their needs above her own. In short, she's the child to the Hariyamas that their actual children should be. Now, I think it's important to point out that Hirayama children are not pure evil. In fact, that's what makes the film so poignant. In their own heads, they really just don't have the time. The children are at the point in their lives when they are no longer children fully dependent on their parents. Some of the children have children of their own, even further placing demands on their busy schedules. I think the Hirayama children do what many of us do, even when we don't want to admit it, is that they allow business and life and ambition to get in the way of understanding what's really important, family. Noriko has no such illusions. Having just lost her husband, and perhaps being a better person to begin with, she understands the value of those human connections. She understands that the elderly Hariyamas need help and need love. On a certain level, she benefits as much from their presence as they do from hers, giving her a connection to the family that she'd lost when her husband disappeared. We never really get a sense of where Noriko's own parents are, or if they're even still around, but Noriko has clearly adopted the Hariyamas as her own family, and plans to serve them as dutifully as if they were related by blood. Tokyo Story is a film shot a million miles away from Hollywood. It's made by a director whose style sets him apart from most filmmakers you would know, but it presents a story that is so universally understood that all roads do eventually lead to Ozu. And we'd be well suited to follow the roadmap laid out by Nariko in the film. Busy days will come and go, but our time with family is never guaranteed. Thanks for watching another episode of Movable Canvas. If you enjoy this kind of discussion, please do hit the like and subscribe buttons below, and let me know what you're thinking in the comments. Have you seen the film? Have you experienced a situation like the one depicted in the film, either as a parent or as a child? I know I have. And how do we best go about supporting those who have supported us, even when time is running short? Until then, thanks for watching, and have a great day.